we wanted to do, we wanted to track the Mac as well.
We did, yeah. We wanted to track the Mac and see what Inkscape took up over there.
That's right. All right, so for you listening or watching, the point I was making before we hit record was that I have all the Snap numbers, I have all the Flatpak numbers, which are surprisingly close, but then I also went out of my way to go get the Windows numbers too. And today I'm on a Mac, so why not get the Mac numbers as well and see what kind of, see who wins, because
everybody's a winner. Yeah.
Yeah, spoiler alert, I think everybody's a winner here. I don't it might be surprising to you to know. I was right. Depending on your definition of correct, because we are in Linux land and semantics, man. Semantics. Coming up in this episode, death everywhere. Not so bloated now, is it? And someone agrees with us. Hello and welcome to the season finale of Linux User Space Season 5. I'm Leo.
And I'm Dan.
Dan, we got a show for you today.
We sure do.
Oh, man. But we got to start with some terrible news, and then we'll kind of taper it off with some good news, right?
Yeah, I think so. So we're doing the Mozilla Watch a little bit here in the beginning.
Okay, things are dead. Things have died. Things are gone.
They're killing them off. Yeah,
I didn't understand one of them. So,
which is probably why they killed it off.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. So a couple of things Mozilla has killed off to the wild cheers of just focus on the browser type people everywhere. Pocket is dead. Go download whatever you have inside of Pocket by October. Get it out of there. Copy it. Move it. Whatever. Do whatever you need to do with it. Because Pocket is dead as well. Fakespot is also dead.
Yeah.
It didn't store anything, so they're yanking it.
Nothing to say.
They're yanking that one from my cold dead hands on June 10th. I thought it was my cold dead hands. It turns out it was Fakespot's cold dead hands.
Yeah. And I haven't done a whole lot of looking, but I haven't found a whole bunch of alternatives there.
Yeah, so here's the thing about Fakespot. I liked it.
Same.
But the thing about Fakespot, well, let me define what Fakespot was. For those of you that didn't know, or especially for those of you that never used Firefox or something, like the first time that you would go to Amazon or somewhere that has kind of like a comment API.
Yeah, sort of a review section. Mm-hmm.
Fakespot would pop up on the side and be like, hey, I can review these for you, and basically take out all of the AI auto-generated ones and then give you what's left, the human comments, so that you can make a better decision about the product that you're buying. And honestly, it was pretty good. I liked it a lot.
It definitely picked up on the AI generated ones.
Yeah. But on the other hand, and it would give you like a letter score. So like A+, B-, right. C, D, E, F, whatever.
Yeah.
The other thing about it though is that it's using AI to detect AI. And that's never necessarily been like very good.
No. But like it's like I consider that like battle bots. You put them in the ring and you let them duke it out and see who comes out at the end, right? And
that
hopefully
is true.
It filters out some of the stuff that you don't want to see.
Right. So robotic sounding ones got yanked out, and you're just left with the more human ones, I guess.
Right.
But it did work. Honestly, I think I made better purchases based upon it. But it's going away.
I at least read better reviews that didn't get my blood pressure up.
True. So that is now gone, and so is Pocket. But here's the thing about Pocket. I never got Pocket. Like, it's there. It's still there in my Firefox. It's not gone yet.
Right.
The little icon is right there. I can see it.
Right.
But I didn't really understand what it was because I use bookmarks.
Yeah, the other thing that you and I both use, though, on a regular basis is RSS feed readers, too.
Yeah, right.
And so that's doing some of those things for you as well?
That's true. Okay. But it didn't really do any aggregation or whatever. It was like a save it for later. So Pocket, as far as I understand.
But like you get the summary of whatever, or you save it for later. It's got like a little summary of an article or whatever, and you can kind of do some of that in your feed reader too.
Right. So yeah, and I guess that's why. Actually, that's a good point. That's exactly why I never got along with Pocket, because I had other things in my life that did some of what Pocket did already.
Right.
So it just never clicked for me. And I never actually understood whether or not Pocket would offline download the article that you were pointing it at. And if it did, that's a killer thing. Like, that's great. But if it didn't, then I just totally do not understand what Pocket was for.
Yeah. Well, I can say that there at least there's some other alternatives, but one of the more popular ones is called Readeck. And it's a Pocket alternative. It's self-hosted right now, but I think at some point in time this year they were looking to roll out a hosted service too for people. And kind of the cool thing there, at least with Readeck, I don't know if Pocket ever did this. You can export that to like your ebook reader kind of thing, or
Okay.
So you can have a separate reader to read the articles, supposedly. The other thing that Readeck did that I noticed that seemed kind of cool, and I don't know if Pocket did this either, and we'll never find out, so, I mean, whatever.
Boo. Yeah, it's dead. No.
Is like when you save links to videos, it will save the transcript, if you will, and so that you can read that again on your ebook reader, too. So,
okay.
Couple handy things for the offline folks, I feel like, which is kind of neat. But yeah, I don't know either, because like I said, well, like you said, we've got some other alternatives that we use mostly for that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and that's why. That's really why it missed me. The offline thing would be kind of cool, but I very rarely, and I mean very rarely, ever find myself without some kind of connection to the internet. At least for me, it ain't 1999 anymore, and I don't have to, disconnect my modem so I can make a phone call.
Yeah, I say offline, but I'm thinking like even a tablet or something, a separate away from like a desktop or a laptop, potentially.
Right.
Yeah, you got to get it on there somehow. So at some point it is connected to a network. But I suppose if you got it on your tablet and it's a Wi-Fi only tablet, then you
true.
You could be reading those things like on a train or
okay,
whatever,
yeah,
if you travel.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I guess I just always have my phone with me, so not a tablet. Tablet's a at-home kind of device for me.
Yeah, fair.
Just same phone things, just on a bigger screen.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, if there's offline capabilities there, then I can totally see what it was about. But yeah, I just never ended up using it. So I guess that part is not sad. Fakespot is kind of sad. But again, just because AI is bad at detecting AI. I mean, the United States Declaration of Independence is 99.9% AI generated according to AI. So, you gotta...
I don't think so.
Not quite. As far as I understand, generative AI didn't exist back in 1776.
No, pretty sure. No. It wasn't predictive modeling. It wasn't generative AI. It wasn't any of that stuff. No.
That was ink and quill back then. So
sure was.
Not quite to the technological level of advancement that we are today.
Yeah.
But okay, so that's the bad news. I guess good news if you want Firefox or Mozilla to focus more on Firefox itself. But more good news for that crew, but also good news for me too, which is profiles.
Yeah.
Now, this is something that I have been looking. I think we mentioned it. We said it was going to be coming, and now it's here.
Right.
But it is rolling out slowly. So your browser may not have the ability to create new profiles yet. This is just like they did the tab islands, the tab, forget what tab, whatever, tab groups.
Yes, tab
that was
grouping.
a staggered, so that was a staggered rollout, which meant that not everybody got it the day they got 138.
Right.
And it slowly flipped on for people. You can go into about:config and turn it on. You can force it on. That's really all that's happening. There's a little logic bomb inside of everybody's Firefox with different times where that's just going to turn on for you. And that gives them the ability to turn it off in case things explode. But likely by the time you're hearing this, I will, and you will, and we'll all have the ability to create profiles in Firefox.
Yeah. Which is neat. I mean, yeah, like you said, it's been around in other browsers for a very long time, so it's a welcome addition. I think we're finally catching up. Finally.
Yep. I've been drooling at Vivaldi's profiles for a long, long time, and I think it's just a thing in Chromium, right? Because I know you said Chrome had it. I know Edge has it. I just used Edge today.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's not that bad.
It's not that good either.
Yeah, depends on.
Well, half my Edge hate comes from Chromium in the first place.
That's fair. I just meant as far as Chromium browsers go, it's not the worst, really.
The only thing that bothers me about Edge is that it keeps trying to sell you on Edge, like all the time.
Well, that's true, and that's very Chrome-like, though.
Yeah, and it's like, hey, you want me to sync all this to OneDrive? And I'm like, no, I thought I uninstalled OneDrive. Stop.
Yeah. How about Copilot? you want some AI in your face?
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah.
It does that a lot, too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll agree with that. But I will say, so like the ad blocking and stuff, it's akin to Vivaldi in that regard, right?
Yeah.
The ad blocking and those things work pretty good. Really?
Yeah. I'm surprised they even allowed cookie snatching. What is it? Like the cookie rejection at all in Edge. But I mean, hey, I'll take it.
You think about it, it's kind of geared towards the enterprise in a way. So when you think about it, you really don't want your people at work, getting hooked up into that stuff. So
you're not wrong. Flick on the strict filter and you're slightly better off. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's true. Yeah. Better than nothing.
That's really cool. But as far as profiles go, like I said, this is something that from the Chromium land I've been waiting for in Firefox for quite a long time. It has a lot of overlap with the way that I use the container tabs. I gushed about container tabs episodes and episodes ago, but it colors your tabs. It puts them in groups, essentially. I have a Linux user space that's orange. So I'm logged into all of my Linux user space stuff in those containers. I've got purple for my stuff, my personal stuff. I've got pink for banking stuff, right? Like, so it's all nice and segregated out.
I agree.
Things remember me. So I can go to like Gmail in my personal container tab and then go to Gmail in the Linux user space tab.
Right.
And they're separate, right?
Yeah.
So this is
log into both on the same browser.
Yes, and it saved me such a headache having to like tie them all together and use Google switching to no, thank you.
Right.
But Profiles is going to do a lot of that same thing for me. So I don't know. I'm going to have to see how exactly I'm going to play that out because the containers kind of do a lot of what Profiles are bringing, and this is why I was able to say, well, I don't really need Profiles, right? Like I would like the feature, but this is what kind of kept me sated, I guess. Like I'm okay with this. This is okay. And it was all in one browser. But I do find myself like doing research and stuff or have stuff that I do on the daily all the time in a browser. And then sometimes I just want like a new context. But sometimes I get them mixed up. And having a profile for it might actually help me kind of like gather my thoughts and understand what a new browser window was actually for, and maybe help me be a little bit more productive. So
that's fair, and I think there's different use cases for it too. I mean, I think about like if you were doing work stuff on your browser and you got a profile for that, and then you want to switch to doing your home stuff, you'd switch to another profile there, and so that like those things don't cross, if you will, and like it doesn't necessarily remember things, through that, right?
Right.
So that when you're done work, you close out of that profile and you're into your home one, and you're right into that. So I mean, but that's assuming, I guess, that you would be using the same machine potentially.
Yeah,
so,
that's exactly what I was going to say. I guess I'm in a pretty privileged position to have a work machine. Right. Yeah, that work assigned to me, and nothing personal goes on that thing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. But I can see a reason for it, I suppose.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I guess I'm just pretty lucky in that I don't need a profile for that because I have an entire computer for that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I get that. No.
Yeah, that is cool though. So I really like this. I mean, I really like that that we're seeing a lot of the features that I think people have been waiting for a long time, because profiles has never been part of the Firefox thing.
No, not that I know of.
Right. But one thing that has been part of the Firefox ecosystem was PWAs, the progressive web apps.
Yes.
And
they keep threatening to bring those back.
Yeah. So looking ahead, that is something that I am looking forward to again. I didn't know that I needed them the first time they were introduced to me, but I got used to them, and then they took them away.
Yep.
And then I just got used to pin tabs. So instead of PWAs, I just pin a tab, and it sort of serves the same purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not quite though.
Not to too hard on edges.
Yeah, they're pretty good at it.
They have it down. They absolutely do. And like all of the Microsoft online products, it wants you to install them as a PWA.
Right, right.
Like it's got a little thing that says, "Hey, you can install this, as an application. Would you like to do that?" And you click it, and it's easy. And then like Outlook on the web, it shows up like Outlook, your application, and it all looks kind of the same. So I can see a reason for that. It's pretty dang handy, honestly.
Yeah. So Chrome itself actually has PWAs, right? And you can do most of the Chrome apps that way, or the Google apps that way.
Yeah, the Google
You know what you can't do that way?
What's that?
Google has not enabled the ability for Chrome to pop out the calendar as a progressive web
separate app. Huh.
How insane is that? Like,
I don't know, that seems very useful.
It would be. It just blows my mind that that a company that size with that much money. I mean, they are all by their lonesome keeping Firefox afloat. Yet the calendar is not a PWA. What is up with that?
I don't know. I kind of like having my email and my calendar up at the same time.
Yeah,
just saying.
The email is that way, right? You can you can make the email a PWA in Chrome, but you can't do the calendar, and it's annoying that I cannot do that. You can do the chat that way, the little Google chat, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But what the heck, man? I need the calendar. It seems trivial, and it is. It really kind of is, because I do the same thing.
These are first world problems. Okay.
I pin a tab, but I reluctantly click on the tab. But man, my life revolves around that calendar. If I didn't have a calendar, I would not know what's happening ever.
I wouldn't know where to go if my calendar wasn't barking at me. No kidding.
No. And I'll finish on one last note.
Okay.
Firefox has so Pocket's dead.
Right.
If you were a fan, and I definitely was, of the little articles at the bottom of a new tab that were just interesting articles. Things about health, things about science, things about very big like events that were going on at the time. Those are apparently, so they were from Pocket. Pocket is dying, but those things are actually going to stay, though it is unclear exactly how they're going to be curated from now on.
Yeah, I was going to say, how would they get ranked? Basically, they're probably ranked based on the number of people that have chosen to, save those articles to Pocket, right?
Yeah.
And so that's sort of a ranking system. Now you're just going to get whatever.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know, but I love those articles. It's articles that I would not have come across.
Well, they're fairly popular, right? I mean, that's the idea.
Yeah, and just I like those.
Huh.
I like those a lot. So keep those coming.
We'll see where that goes.
Yeah. So, well, I'm sure by the time, because Pocket will be dead in October. We'll come back after the season finale for the season premiere. Probably by the time we come back, we'll have a clearer view on what the heck is happening with those little things. Not that we'll spend a whole lot of time on it, but
we'll see. Hey, if you like looking at her face, or maybe not, maybe at least you like looking at the things that Leo puts on the screen over top of our faces. The little things that are scrolling up right in front of you. Yeah. Web pages, all that good stuff. If you like seeing those things, you like the video, you wanna catch it that way, you can catch us on YouTube. Subscribe over there, like all that good stuff, and you can write us comments there. That's some of where we get our feedback, honestly.
The last feedback was almost it was a majority YouTube,
with the exception of maybe one. I think they were all YouTube, comments. So it's a great place to leave comments. That's good stuff. You can, like, comment, and subscribe over there on YouTube. But we're also on Tilvids when we do our informational and history bits. Those get posted over there on Tilvids, which is a PeerTube instance that, they're very gracious hosts at Tilvids to allow us to post our content. Very supportive of, FOSS and whatnot. So that's pretty cool.
Gotta love it.
Yeah, exactly. Edutainment is the term that they classify their content.
To go over there and learn something.
There's lots of good learning. There really is. There's some great there's other channels that are great too. So poke around a little bit, take a look. And if you really, really love us, you can send us a $1 or $2 over at Patreon and support the channel. So that we can, keep delivering these great things, and you'll get early access to, audio, video, high quality audio. You get the full, depending on how much you donate, right? You get the full show before the show and the show after the show. Plus the show. You get all the shows. All rolled
$5
into
or
one.
more, and you get to see us put the sausage together. That I think is, I don't know. I really enjoy that part of the show because sometimes I think Dan and I have a vague idea what we want to talk about. Like we're going into the bloat section here next.
We are,
and I'll tell you all while you're wrong. But before the show, we knew what we were talking about. We had some of the hard numbers, but I think one of the things that we kind of coalesced on was how exactly we wanted to do that. And it turns out we added a little information that we didn't have before, and took out a little information and learned something too. That's the most interesting thing. I'll tell you what we learned here in just a minute, but that's kind of the important bit is that if somehow, some way we seem put together with what you're watching right now.
No, you need to subscribe. Patreon. You need to send us the money on Patreon just so you can experience it once.
Yes, because an hour ago, it wasn't so well thought out because we put a lot of work into kind of thinking things out and figuring out how we're going to say stuff. So you get that whole, usually it's an hour. I think today it was like 50 something minutes.
Which was shorter than normal, but yeah.
Yeah, we've done well over an hour before, but and then that also includes some of the bits at the end of the show too, where it's kind of a debrief.
Wrap up, talk. Yeah.
Take that deep breath, and I get to realize how dumb I sounded or something. So
well, that happens.
It's all out there. For those of you.
So what Leo's saying is, you don't just get the Michelin star dish, you get to watch, the shopping trip, and someone fumble and drop the onion on the floor and pick it back up and all of that stuff. It's all there.
It's the crashing cutlery and plates and stuff, and then you're in
pans in flames and all that stuff. You get to see it.
Yay, good work.
And then there you go. Yeah, we present it to you.
All right. So now I get to make everybody mad. Because we're going to talk about bloat.
Yeah, I think we need to start there. We need to define that. I actually went and looked it up. Okay.
Okay.
When it's a verb used with an object, It's to expand or distend, as with air, water, etc., cause to swell.
Okay, and I think when we're talking about Linux, we're focusing on the cause to swell part of the, I guess, that part of the definition, right?
I think that's accurate, yeah.
Let me define what I think people mean when they say bloat as it pertains to Linux. The cause to swell part generally gets it, but I think what people mean, and please correct me if I'm wrong, because this is where I'm going to be focusing on, is that there are a lot of bits and bobs that you don't necessarily need to have a working Linux system, and anything beyond that is bloat. And okay, I guess
I'm going to take it and twist it a little bit on you, Leo, and I'm going to say so. Like it talks about, you know, distend as with air, right? So I'm going to use the word inflate, and I'm going to say artificially inflated for no purpose.
Okay,
that's where I'm thinking people are coming from.
I thought you were gonna say that I was full of hot air, and
nope, no, I didn't even go there. Right? I mean, so no. I think that's where people come from sometimes too. Right?
Yeah.
And the word artificial is not in there, but like I added that. Okay.
Right. So, okay, so I do think that's how most people see it, right? Like anything beyond the exact stuff that you need to get the exact job that you need done is anything beyond that is bloat. And I mean, sure, I can see that, but I don't see why that's necessarily a good thing. Other than these slight disk savings, the storage disk savings that you get when you strip everything back and have nothing extra. But obviously, I'm not a subscriber to that outlook. I honestly don't care.
I think we have a pretty pragmatic look on things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've got huge disks everywhere. I don't care. And even if, and I'm going to make the case that even if you're on a 64 gigabyte SSD, that you shouldn't have to worry about it either. So, here's what we did. So if you've not been a follower of the show, let me give you a quick recap of what we've been doing over the past few weeks, and that is playing with Flatpak and Snap and actually getting the hard numbers of how big these apps are. And it turns out it's a little harder than you might think. It's blurry when it comes to Flatpak and Snap.
Be. Yeah.
But we've been gathering up, and I have numbers for you, for how big all these applications are. We started with a set of 9 applications that I use on a very regular basis. And that is, these are alphabetical, not in preference. Brave, Discord, Element, Firefox, GIMP, Inkscape, Kdenlive, OBS, and Telegram. Every app that we use to produce this show is on that list, right?
Yes.
So I use it at least every 2 weeks. We communicate over Discord. We talk to our friends and listeners on Element. We talk to them on Telegram. I do all the research for the show, all of the notes, all of the everything on Firefox. I think, Dan, you use Vivaldi more than
I do, but I mean, it's the same kind of thing. So I mean,
right. So I can't imagine Vivaldi would be much bigger than Brave or anything like that. But I had to pick a browser.
Right.
And OBS to record backups, to do live streams, to do all that stuff. So this is a very common set of apps for me, and I don't really deviate that much from these. I add a couple more, remove a couple more, whatever. It really kind of depends. But these show up on pretty much every one of my every one of my machines.
Right.
And so those are the apps that I wanted to test on.
Those are the core apps that you definitely depend on, no matter where you are.
Right. And last minute, I took it even further. I wasn't planning on checking this out on any other operating system, right? I've got Fedora 42, right? And then Ubuntu 2504, right?
Correct.
Fedora for the Flatpaks, Ubuntu for the snaps. And that was going to give us a really good idea. But I thought, as I was sitting in front of a Windows machine, well, I've got all these apps on a Windows machine too. Well, why shouldn't I check that? And so I did. I have luckily for Windows and Mac OS, it's a lot easier to get a lock on what an individual application is, like how big it is.
Right.
So I have even more in-depth numbers there. But right before the show, right before we actually sat down to record, or as we're sitting down to record, I'm like, I do have a Mac. I could, it's an ARM-based Mac, and I could test all of this stuff there too. So I did. So this is what we've got. We've got all 9 of those apps installed on all 4 of those operating systems: Mac OS, Windows, Fedora 42, and Ubuntu 2504. All the same apps. I wanted to look at how much disk space all these apps were taking up. And so I did.
Right.
Now, this is where the bloat thing comes in.
It's a little blurry.
Well, yes. It is a little blurry, but the one thing that I couldn't do is, at least not without a gargantuan effort and emailing so many people, how big were these applications actually going to be? And we're talking libraries included. That's why it's hard. Mm-hmm. How big were all these applications going to be if you were to install them from a repository?
Yeah.
If you were to, say, install Arch and then install these applications, how big is all that?
It's a little tricky because, like, a single package can bring down other packages, right? That are libraries, potentially, other things that go along with it. Whereas, obviously, the universal applications in Windows and Mac, they have everything together, right?
That's why they were easier, yeah.
That's why they're easier, yep.
So before I get into the hard numbers, I want to put out a request. If there's an easy way to figure this out, you need to let me know, because the only true way for me to say that I am correct on bloat and Flatpak and Snap don't constitute enough to really kind of to make it to the where I think would be like bloat
excessive.
I would need to actually know what the comparable numbers are. If you were to install all 9 of these applications, right, on the most barest of bare systems, how big would it actually be? And I mean, we would have to start with a super bare.
You could do it one at a time.
Yeah, I mean,
potentially.
So we didn't do that. We kept it to exactly what we were talking about, and then added the other 2 operating systems to it. So over the break, that may be what I spend a little bit of time doing, and then I can be a little more definitive on this. But here are the numbers. Here are the things that we figured out. So Mac OS 1, it turns out. But I think Mac OS has...
It's a different architecture, so you can't forget that.
Right. Mac OS runs on ARM64. All the other machines, Windows, Fedora, and Ubuntu, are all running on x86 or AMD 64, whatever, however you want to classify it. Those types of machines. So I think without all the extra x86 overhead, I think that's a big reason why the application's on Mac OS 1.
Right.
But anyway, Mac OS clocked in all 9 of those applications, and some of them were quite large, at 5 gigs. It was like 5.0 something 4 or something.
1, 2
like that.
or something. I don't know. Yeah, it was insignificant.
Right. Except to the bloat people, 40 megabytes might actually be a whole lot of space. Yeah, wow. Anyway, so just so you know, I only rounded to the nearest 100 megabytes, okay?
Close enough.
Windows clocked in at 800 megabytes more, at 5.8 gigabytes for all 9 of those applications. Flatpak, 800 megabytes more at 6.6 gigabytes. And Snap clocked in at 7 gigabytes. Now, to Snap's credit. The Snap actually, I think, beats out Flatpak. And it turns out...
It's super close. Super close.
Right. What you have to remember is that Snap always remembers the last one as well. Right. So you have an application, if it updates, it remembers the last one. So it keeps it, holds it, just in case something goes wrong. And because of that, it kind of inflates the directory that contains all the snaps, right? So if you were to take out all the extras, it looked like you would save somewhere around the vicinity of a gig. So Snap is probably closer to 6 gigs total.
Right. Because remember, it's not like doubling the size of the application. It's sort of just saving the difference or the delta between the last version and the current version. And
that's what
it's
it
not
seemed
saving the whole thing, right? So
yeah, it seemed like there were a couple applications that were like, "There's no way that thing is 64 megabytes. Like, why is that so small?"
Yeah,
and that's kind of what I came up with.
Right.
But then you have to remember that snaps are compressed on disk, so that's going to take a lot of digging to actually figure out what the heck, how much compression you're going to get out of each individual application, and not every application has the same compression ratio. So
yeah, different algorithms even, and like you can only, I mean, even with the best of algorithms, sometimes the best of compression, you still don't compress it that much.
Yeah,
depending on what it is, right?
Right. So yeah, and I think it's LZO which favors speed over compression. So it's not like we're talking huge numbers or anything like that. But that would, if you want to compare apples to apples, right? Because macOS, Windows, Flatpak don't compress these on disk. You would have to decompress the snaps, and that would probably kind of negate some of the benefit of keeping that second version and getting a weird number for that. So I kept Snap at 7, right? Just kind of, it's a wash, right?
It's a good round. It's a good round number, and it's really not that far off.
Exactly. So so that's it. So from macOS at 5 gigs to Snap's wonky little number at 7 gigs, we're talking a 2 gig delta between
all of it.
The slimmest set of applications to the biggest set of applications. And again, I think the Bloat folks are comparing to debs and stuff, right? Just a deb from the repo.
I guess just straight up, like OBS or, even like Telegram, they're going to be a lot smaller. But that, again, you got to go add all of the other bits and bobs that it brings in with it in order to get an accurate comparison.
Right, but are they that much smaller? I mean,
it's
not like the stuff in the
libraries attached with it.
Right, but it's not like the stuff in the runtimes in Flatpak aren't actually on your system. Right. You just only have one version of them. And so you're locked into using very specific versions of software. Otherwise, you change that runtime on a regular distro, a flat type distro without these containerized applications, and you've broken half your apps, right? So there's a lot of restriction when you're coming from a traditional
totally
deb installed or the RPM type installed systems, right? So there's a big trade-off there. And I'm okay with sacrificing a gig of disk space to have the freedom to install the latest, greatest version of every single application without having to worry about, did the arch devs make sure that this particular thing is working with this particular thing, or, going out of tree or having to mess around with DistroBox or whatever it is, just to have a more traditional type system. I just like having my app and having it
like most people. Yeah.
Yeah. That's where I'm coming from. These are the numbers that I'm looking at to base my outlook on. And the bottom line is this ain't bloat, and it doesn't matter. Because think about that 64 gigabyte SSD that I started this conversation out with, right? You're dedicating 7 gigs at the most for applications.
Right.
The operating system, what? That's
pretty small.
One of the chonky ones. Let's even say,
we'll say Ubuntu.
Slackware.
Okay. Oh, wow. What with Ubuntu? I got a number there. It's like 9 gig.
Okay. All right. So call it 10. I was going to say Slackware at 15.
Get all installed. You're there, right?
So
9 gig
10
or so.
Plus these 9 applications. Heck, throw a few more in there too. Round it out to another 10 gigs.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it.
Like a third of your disk yet.
Right. So I don't see it. Yeah, what would that be, like 21, 22? So let's just call it an even third of your disk, right? I don't see it. I really don't. Like, yes, for people that run one application, sure.
Well, sure.
But I don't think anybody just runs one app on a machine that you use on the day-to-day.
Yeah, we're not talking about a kiosk.
Right. I don't think there's a whole lot of people out there just running one application.
Right. I agree with that.
So you're going to end up with a library here, a library there, regardless of how you install your applications, regardless of the operating system on which you install your application. You're just in this vortex of it don't matter.
I totally agree. I mean, we're way past the small drives that we're talking about at 64 gig. We're so far beyond that. Now we're, most people 256 at least, probably more like 512 is probably a more realistic number of what you're putting in your systems.
You're scraping the bottom of the barrel when you're buying 256 gig drives.
Yeah, you really gotta hunt for that. And
right, but I am not discounting the fact that I know that there are people with 64 gig hard drives out there, 128 gig hard drives out there.
Don't, yeah.
Right, no, of course. But they're in much less circulation now than they ever were. Unless you're really intent on buying like the off lease hardware or whatever from eBay,
I guess
there's a good chance you're getting a much bigger disk than 64 gigs.
Yeah, because I can tell you that the cost difference between those things is really small, and for the extra $10 or whatever, you might as well get the something a little more sizable.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. 256 to 512. I mean, yeah, really, it's anywhere between $5 and $10 more, and you double your space.
That's tiny. For a couple of cups of coffee here.
Yeah, it is. So I'm just not seeing it. I mean,
I don't either.
Yes, if you want to play that game, that the runtimes that Flatpak comes with,
I guess
has stuff in it that you'll never use. Okay, yeah. Sure.
Oh, well.
But why should I care about that? Why is that such a big sticking point for? Because this is anytime we say anything about Bloat on YouTube, anytime we talk about it in the wider community, anytime we talk about it in Discord or Telegram, there's always someone, always someone talking about Bloat. And I don't know why I should care about 800 megabytes. I really don't.
I don't either. Yeah, I mean, what is too big, I guess, is my question.
I mean,
I don't
half
know.
my disk, I guess.
Yeah, that would be too big. Yeah, no joke. I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, like a 512 gig SSD, right? Like 500 gig SSD, right? Like half of that. Okay, maybe we're treading
that's
into
too much.
250 gigs of application or whatever. But at that point, you're past that point in Flatpak where you've already downloaded all the runtimes. Like they're already all there.
Yeah, like what? How many applications do you have installed at that point?
Right.
Yeah.
The only increase in application size is going to be the application itself because the runtime is already there. You've already downloaded it. It's already on your disk. It's already taken up the space. So you're past that. And I think I'm past that with the applications that I've got running. I mean, I've got all kinds of GTK this and GTK that and QT whatever and.
And honestly, that's a feature I feel like in a way because I don't have to bring in if I'm on a Qt Qt desktop, I don't have to bring in a whole bunch of runtimes, for the whole system necessarily for GTK stuff. And the same goes true if you're on a GTK system and you're bringing in a Qt app, right?
Right.
I mean, the reverse is also true. I don't have to worry about it. Like it's taken care of when I install the app.
Yep, definitely. So I just can't come up with a good argument. I like to argue in my head, I like to try and see everything from everybody's point of view. And the only thing that I could really come up with that would really push ahead any kind of bloat argument is quite literally you're counting the megabytes.
Yeah, you're counting. Why are you counting so close? I mean,
right. And I mean, am I right on that? I think, so this is a question for the wider audience. If you're still listening, right? If you are a bloat person and you're still listening by some crazy happenstance, am I right about that? Is it really down? Are you ricing your disk? right? We've got people that spend so much time ricing their desktop and getting it to look cool and be cool and flutter here and swivel there. And I've got this thing on my desktop and it's counting here. And I've got, all kinds of information and distraction on my desktop. They wouldn't call it a distraction, but like there's so much stuff and I spent so much time in it. Is it akin to that? Is that what it is? Like, if you can get a 650 megabyte installation of Linux down to 630 megabytes, like you've won the bloat game. And then 3 weeks later, you figure out why you couldn't do that in the first place because something doesn't work. You know what I mean? Like, right. I've been down that road.
I think it does. Yeah, I think it totally does boil down to fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Right. And the other thing is they've gone on the internet and there's been some other shouty guy there saying things probably with less facts than what we're presenting. And they just blindly believed it, right? Because, that's how that works.
Right.
Generally speaking. So, and then the thing just perpetuates because, so-and-so said this and then, everybody else is saying the same thing and it feeds on itself.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of that out there, without actually checking on any of it, if you will,
right.
To verify. Yeah.
Yeah. And far be it from me to tell you to stop counting the megabytes. That's not what I'm saying here at all.
Right.
But it's this perpetuation of this idea that Flatpak is bloated, therefore Flatpak is bad.
Right.
Right. The idea of Flatpak. Well, we have this library duplicated on your system, therefore bad. Right.
No, it has the right version of the library to work with the thing, so it's going to work.
and that's really the only issue I have with the bloat argument. But because it's so pervasive, because I see it everywhere, because every time we talk about bloat, there's always at least one talking about this. That was the whole impetus for all of this. I just had to know because it was my instinct that. Yeah. How bloated could it possibly be? It's not that big. Like, it's not taking up my whole disk. I always have hundreds of gigs left.
Yeah, exactly.
To download pictures of Dan's face and then edit them, put a little chicken beak on the front. I do all kinds of fun stuff like that.
He does do that.
That is right. So I had to find out, and I am not impressed by what I found. You know what I mean? Like, as far as the perpetuation of the idea that bloat.
Yeah, no, so
exists.
We debunked it right here, right now. Bloat. It doesn't float. Sorry. Move on.
Bloat doesn't float. I like that. and it's just so insignificant of a size that I just don't know why I need to care about 2 gigs compared to every other operating system in existence.
I don't think you do.
And then what? I save another gig if I forego Flatpaks and snaps and the convenience that they bring. Just to have a wonky distro box set up so that I can get applications that I could normally have gotten elsewhere, and then I end up reduplicating all of the stuff because now I have an actual, real, full, true-blooded container on my system? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. So, really, again, this is not really to bash on bloat folks because, again...
No, it's just...
Do what you want to with your own disk. I don't care.
Exactly.
Do your thing. Just stop perpetuating the myth.
Yeah, don't say that. That's not the truth.
Yeah, because it's not. It really isn't. And I don't know why I got so... how did it get legs like this?
I don't know, because I think we just want to, you want to independently verify all of the claims for reasoning not to use said thing. And this was one of them that rose to the top for a lot of people of, reasoning why. And yeah. Now it's been debunked, if you will. So yeah. We just need to move on to the next thing, whatever that is.
That's it. That's what I'm scared of.
There are other things, and then some of them are more legit than others. I'm not going to dispute that.
Right. But I'm afraid
in the end of the day, why do we care so much? That's what I really want to know. What is keeping us from using the thing that works? Why don't we do that?
Maybe that's actually probably you've put it better than I could have, I guess. You kind of cut surprising. To the root of the problem. Why does it bother you what other people use? Right? Like why?
And if it works for them, why do you care?
Exactly. It is. Takes a lot of effort to watch a video, hear what somebody has to say, and then go down at the bottom and be like, "Nah, that sucks." I don't get it. I don't get it. So I don't know. Maybe I'm missing something huge. Maybe someone can shed some light on it for me. And if it's just ricing your disk, that's cool, man.
Well, that's neat. Yeah.
Ricing your disk. Keep stripping it away until there's
go
literally
install Windows
nothing.
95 and defragment. Your heart's content is the way I feel about that. If you want to rice your disk.
I actually want, it doesn't have to do anything. I just want an application for Linux that shows me the little blinky squares. Like the old defragger used to.
I think I saw this recently.
Oh my God.
There's a web page someplace that makes you, it like pretends to be defragmenting a disk, and it's just a web page.
Yeah. So and I'd be lying if back in the day in Windows 95 and Windows 98 that I did not do that at least weekly.
Yeah.
But that's because my hard drive was like 20 gigs.
Yeah, and it did so here's another myth that we can debunk. Having less stuff on your disk doesn't make it faster.
That is very true.
And so maybe that's a thing that's been perpetuated as well.
2 gig systems notwithstanding, right? If you've got a 2 gig system, then I get there's nuance there that we could go on forever about. But let's say 4 gigs or more, I think you're right. I think you're unequivocally right.
I think most things, yeah, and yeah, if you're not cataloging what's on the disk all the time, yeah, like once it's installed, and it's just going to be the speed that it is, and that's what you get. So I stripping everything off or ricing your disk, if you will, that's really not going to speed things up for you. That's a total myth. It's going to save you space.
There you go.
But it is not going to speed anything up. That does not work that way.
I kind of feel like disks are like RAM, like unused disk space is wasted disk space.
Yeah, so fill them up.
Fill it up with an app, man.
Yeah,
do something with that free space.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway, so I don't mean for any of that to come off as any kind of bash fest or anything like that. I just don't understand.
Right.
So
right. And we don't want to keep the thing perpetuating forward with the myth, if you will.
Yeah. Because it ain't there. I don't see it. I really don't. 2 gigs ain't gonna crush anybody.
Anyway, you can catch all the great topics as they unfold on our Lemmy, or our subreddit, or our news channel on Discord. And we've got links in the show notes here, so you can get to all those things. Lemmy, Reddit, Discord, and including all of the social spaces that we have, like Mastodon, Telegram, Matrix, Twitch, Twitter, Blue Sky.
Yeah, and those are the things that you're going to want to pay attention to over the next couple of months, because this is the last full episode, but there'll be one more piece of the full episode coming out. For those of you just watching the singles, right, just the 20-minute segments, there'll be one more coming out for y'all. But if you're watching this in the whole episode with all 3 main segments in here, this is it for a while. Me and Dan, we're going to go sit on a beach, sip a Mai Tai.
Maybe not a beach, but
complain about the guacamole. We're gonna take a break.
We're definitely going to do that. Yeah.
Get caught up on all the other stuff that
exactly. Yeah.
So when we come around, now that's not saying that we're not going to be around and we're not going to say hey and whatever. I still want to do a live stream here and there. I think as me and Dan have time and as the stars align for us, we're going to sit down and do what we can. But we're still going to be around on Lemmy and Reddit. I told you earlier, I have internet everywhere. So it's not like, I will unplug. I will push airplane mode, but for the most part, there's really not many days go by that I don't check in on stuff. And if there's a good conversation happening, I'm gonna join, even though I wasn't invited.
Yeah. You toss it out there, and we'll jump on it, I'm sure.
That's right. So join one of those spaces. Be part of the community. That way you can send us feedback, give us stuff to talk about, and then we can just back and forth until the next episode.
So that brings us into some feedback, and I'll start it off here with this first half of the email that we got from Visu Labs via email, and it was in response to the AI bug reporting thing that we talked about.
This was currently doing okay. The curl has banned AI slop video. This is in response to that one.
So one of the things that AI ML is better than humans at is pattern recognition over large data sets. I support AI being used in this fashion to identify possible CVE bug-causing patterns that a human may miss, but it has to be followed up with actual verification that the bug is valid. Even a low success rate could be useful if the validation step is not overly onerous.
So a couple of points before we dive into our thoughts on that one. But so even a low success rate could be useful. This, I think, is in response to Dan and I kind of having this conversation about, how useful does it have to be before we really start giving it some respect? Before we start saying, okay, we'll integrate AI into this whole tool chain so that we can, catch out bugs before they become an actual problem. And that it was followed up with actual verification.
That's the key. That's key to me. Yeah.
Yeah. That is the crux of Daniel Stenberg's problem with AI slop, is that there was not.
Yeah. Don't just copy pasta, what AI fed back to you. Make sure that is valid. And so it was very evident, if you do anything about anything, that, the things that it was reporting on didn't actually exist in the code. So,
yes,
and
actual verification.
Yeah, those functions didn't exist. So when you went to go look at that, you would have quickly seen that that was just not correct.
What's funny about that is you probably could have re-asked AI. You could have just been like,
maybe,
hey, all of the functions inside of this thing actually exist, right? And then it would have been like, oh, excuse me, I'm so pardoned. No, it actually does not. And then it would go through its whole little predictive thing of telling you, well, maybe these actually, Anyway, so you got it back and forth at about 12 and a half times. And then...
Or just go look at it.
As you can tell, I've got a little beef with AI. It's got some good uses. And it's not ready for prime time on this one yet without the actual human verification.
Yeah, it's got to get better.
But because we're missing that step, it really puts a bad taste in everybody's mouths about AI. And when you're working in the open source communities that are already probably a little salty about AI in the first place because it vacuumed up all their code and is using it to do all of this stuff, you are, fool me once kind of thing. And this is it. You gotta go further. You gotta build bridges. If this is the kind of relationship that you actually want to cultivate, is doing curl like that is a bad start. So, I mean, all that to say, I wholeheartedly agree with everything you've said so far.
Yeah. Well, it gives a bad taste for potential good things that AI can do, right? I mean, it's just like anything when you cheat and just kind of copy whatever is presented in front of you without, verifying any of it to be true. You're going to get bad results out of that often enough. I mean, you need to know what you're talking about a little bit, right? You can't just blindly take the word of a machine.
Right. Exactly. So the actual verification part is absolutely key.
That's key.
But yeah, so with that in mind, then even a low success rate could be useful. But I think the true key there is that the actual verification should not come on the developer of the software's side. It needs to come, the onus is on the person running the AI against the code base. The onus is on them
100%.
to do the actual verification so that you are not, as Daniel Stenberg put it, effectively DDoSing the project.
Exactly. Yeah, no, 100%. Yep.
Yeah, overly onerous. Yeah, I mean, it is.
That's a good word. Yep.
It absolutely is. All right, so the second part of the email was talking about Rust in the kernel, which is a separate segment. I think Vezi Labs watched the whole episode.
Yeah, no, hands down. There was a third part too, but
right,
we're gonna skip that for now.
So Rust in the kernel, and in this segment, we were talking about how essentially Rust is making it into the kernel, and I mean that's a good thing, and I think that's only going to make the kernel better. Yet, plenty of people disagree. So they go on to write, the feedback about the battle-tested code being secure is valid, but that argument starts falling apart once the code starts changing. Correct memory management in C requires the writer to keep large amounts of context about the expected and required state of the system, and it's very difficult to make sure that the context is documented and stays up to date as the code changes. This is even more difficult if changes elsewhere alter this context, as the ability to identify all locations affected by a change is limited. Languages like Rust, in which the compiler and tooling have the ability to maintain the context and invariants, make updates to code far safer. This fearless refactoring is a common pro I hear when listening to interviews with Rust engineers. And I think this right here are exactly the types of bumpers, safety nets, guards that we're talking about that Rust has, why we agree that, all of this development, auxiliary development in the kernel that's being done in Rust is a good thing, because you're just not going to end up with little oopsies that while there are guards for C that you can bolt on.
Well, it's just like pulling out a thread, and then the next thing you know, you've pulled a whole bunch of other threads from over here, and the next thing, because they're woven together in a way, and that's why Linus is very careful about, what gets merged in, because you got to be careful you're not pulling on the wrong string when you're fixing stuff, essentially. And so by using the Rust stuff, it kind of modularizes things a little bit, if you will. And compartmentalizes that just ever so slightly.
Right. And because you can make changes in one place, and you'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Without having to, blow the entire code base up or something.
And that's what we want to avoid, especially for this very important project.
Yeah, and one of the scary things is in C, you can blow up the project and not even know it until the CVE comes out.
Mm-hmm. And they exist. We talked about that. There's definitely CVEs that exist for the Linux kernel.
Right. Well, it's good to know. It's good to know that that some folks agree.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, all the Rust developers agree, right? I mean, they wouldn't be doing it otherwise.
Right.
But I really enjoyed those takes. Honestly,
I do too. Yeah.
Makes me feel a little bit better about my stance on all this.
And finally, we got another piece of feedback, I think, from YouTube here. Stephen Reeves, 3205. If they spin off Chrome, would they also spin off Chrome OS? Or maybe just rebrand it?
Yeah, and this was from...
Yeah, from the episode that we were talking about, Chrome getting broken up, if you will.
Exactly, yes. So the DOJ is looking at, though we don't know for sure yet, breaking up essentially the Alphabet Corp or just Google or something like that. But all the little
we don't know how far it's going to go, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right, and specifically, they were looking at breaking out
Chrome to be its own thing.
Right,
yeah.
That's right. And Firefox is very scared about that. And that was kind of the crux of the argument. But this kind of goes one step further. Well, if they break out Chrome, they're going to break out Chrome OS 2. And so for those that don't know, Chrome OS is the major component that comes on all these Chromebooks, right? That you hear about in schools, or that you can pick up for cheap on eBay because nobody wants them.
Because they're hot garbage, but that's fine.
The newer ones have virtualization extensions.
They do. It's a little better than it once was. Yeah.
They work a whole lot more like a traditional laptop than
and ultimately you spend
days.
Almost the same amount of money that you spend on a laptop. So I'm not sure what you're doing there, but that's fine.
I know. I actually bear with me here for a hot minute. Samsung had I think they called it the Pixel. They had a Chrome OS laptop called the Pixel that almost, but then they told me it was $1,000, and I was like, oh, for a lockdown little machine that I can't do much on? Nah, we good.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, maybe with a few updates or whatever, now with the more modern Chrome OS, maybe.
Yeah, I still think that's a lot of money. I'd go get the framework and be done with it.
There you go. For the same amount of money, you can get a framework, so get a framework.
Yeah, right.
So let's, I don't know the answer to that question, but I would like to explore that question a little bit. You'd have to rebrand it, right?
Well, they've sort of already announced a merger, if you will, from Chrome OS to Android. They talked about this, at least it got published in an article that I found back in November. So Chrome OS is going to morph into Android, so that Chromebooks will be, I guess, Android books at that point. And, kind of bringing the phone operating system into the laptop operating system, kind of like the same long-term roadmap that, Apple is doing with their tablets and their, MacBooks and the desktops, all of that kind of being one OS, or at least that's their goal. And I know that's a super long-term, long-range goal for them. I don't know how much it would actually take for Google or whoever is in control of Chrome OS to be able to do that, because I think they're kind of close now. I know they already use bits of Android inside of Chrome OS, so I don't think it's going to take a lot, and it'll be the same thing before you know it anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, this should have happened a whole long time ago, to be honest.
Probably. Because
everybody's been aiming for convergence. Ubuntu tried and failed, unfortunately, for convergence. But the other big groups in the room, you got your Googles, your Apples, and your Microsofts. I mean, they're still working at it.
Yeah. So Chromebooks, I think they've been able to install Android apps, or some Android apps, for a while. And they basically do that through containerization or virtualization. I'm not sure which.
Yeah.
But this would kind of lead towards not needing that anymore, maybe. So probably more performant.
Right. And it would work a whole lot more like the Mac ecosystem, where the applications which support it, you can install essentially the same app on the iPad as you do on Mac OS, which is...
it looks the same, works the same, obviously different resolutions and screen sizes, but ultimately the apps are all the same.
Pretty nifty. And I think, if we see that kind of thing in Linux, then it's going to be living on top of Flatpak or Snap. It has to. Because you never know what you're going to install on. You never know what base it is or whatever. So you might as well just ship the whole entire thing and get a lot of benefit out of that.
Right.
But, I mean, kind of taking that a little further, right? So Chrome is broken out. Chrome OS is broken out. Android is broken out? Question mark?
I don't know what happens to your merger there that you've already got underway. Do you just abandon one? Maybe.
I mean, because we kind of have this question of, what happens to all of the little bits? What is broken out? I guess that's the ultimate question, right?
That's what we don't know. And I think that's up to the, DOJ to figure out, honestly.
Right. But in a perfect world, everything would be broken out.
Yeah.
Gmail just becomes mail or, whatever. And then, all of the little Google, the whole Drive suite goes and lives somewhere else.
Oof.
How...
I don't know. Do you, though? Like, it's got to be like the productivity suite. Do you bundle some of those things together? I feel like you kind of gotta.
Possibly. But, that's kind of how we got this crazy behemoth in the first place.
That's true.
Right? Like,
That's true.
company buying a company, buying another company, and another company, and another company, and another company. And all of a sudden, you're sitting in front of the DOJ getting broken up,
That's true. That's true.
And this has been the MO of massive companies like Meta and Google and Microsoft is to do not innovate yourself.
Right.
Don't do that. Why would you do that? Spend the money on that? Incubate your own stuff? Ew, why? We could just buy company B over there, take all of their code, integrate it in over here, and not have to do much of anything other than just smash it together. And I think
if you look back a little further than that, even, you can go back to like the AT&T times, right? And
right.
So like, the Bell Labs, all that stuff. I mean, like they just kind of kept assuming everything and bringing it into the fold, and the next thing you know, they were in front of people and they were breaking them up too. So
yeah, exactly. So I think it's long past due. I think that style of acquisition really should just not really be allowed. I mean, collaboration, sure, but outright purchasing and gobbling up all of your competition, because that's really what it was.
Oh, totally. They like, especially Google and Alphabet Corp. They find these little small, kind of cool projects, and they sort of bring them into the fold and say, this is, we'll take this now, and the next thing you know, they're killing it off, or just killing off all the other competition.
Yeah, or doing the meta thing where your Facebook and your user numbers are going down, and Instagram is gobbling up your user base, and you're like, we'll just buy Instagram then.
Yeah, exactly.
Problem solved.
Right.
Yeah, so that kind of thing, is bad. Is absolutely bad. We're supposed to have competition. That's supposed to be the thing that spurs everybody on, but when you just gobble everything up, you just get lazy. And that's where we are right now.
Especially in the browser space, huh? Sadly.
Sad.
I mean, we are, though, right?
Yes. Long live Firefox.
Well, I don't know what else to say, but hopefully something.
Oh, man, it was Pocket. Pocket was going to save it.
No, Pocket was not saving it. I'm sorry.
No, my Pocket. Oh, man. Well, hopefully they give you something to think about. We don't have any answers for you, but maybe it gave you something to think about.
More questions than answers, yeah.
Yeah. And hopefully some of that breakage, the breakage uppage, actually goes through, and we get a better web for it. Though I hope Firefox gets a little what they want and doesn't lose all the funding, but I'm not holding my breath on that front.
Same here. Anyway, that brings us down here to the finale of the finale. You can catch all the links at linuxuserspace.show. And if you want to send us some feedback, even in the off season, that's totally fine. You can send them to contact@linuxuserspace.show, or you can go on to linuxuserspace.show/contact and fill out the form there, and that will also get in our inbox.
Yep, and all those links live at linuxuserspace.show/514. That's something that I've always meant to do at the end of all the shows.
Tell you what episode we're on? That's probably a good idea, huh?
Yeah, actually. I don't think we say it once throughout the entire, like at the beginning of the show, we probably should be like, hey, Linux 5.14, or, I don't know. I don't like.
We'll work on that for next season. How's that sound?
We'll have that figured out. But you also want to go to linuxuserspace.show/514, because I'm going to have the text of a script that you can plug into cron or a systemd timer to keep an eye on the size of all of your Flatpaks. Or, you could change the directory to... Yeah, you can change your directory to anything if you want to just monitor it and log it. But anyway, go there, take a look at that code, steal it, use it, do whatever. Go put it on GitHub for me because I'm too lazy for that. Yeah, just stick my name on it somewhere or something.
Codeberg, so that you're not, feeding the Microsoft.
Oh, obviously, right? GitLab, is GitLab cool still?
GitLab's
or
cool,
don't?
I think. Yeah.
Okay,
I think you're good there.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, put it on wherever you want to put it.
Bitbucket.
A little hat tip. I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Anyway, that brings us to next time, or maybe we'll start a new season, or do we? I don't know. If we do, yeah, I think we will. If we do, we'll give a few thoughts and whatever else we can cram into the show. So anyway, in between seasons, you can catch us on all the socials places. Links are in the show notes here. And, send us some ideas. We've already got some. We're kind of, accumulating a few.
Puppy Linux.
Yeah, that's on the list. That's for sure. And, we'll probably come back with some news and topics because there'll be things that happen in the off season here. And we'll discuss those a little bit, and we'll get a game plan for the rest of the season. Things that we want to explore.
That's right. So yeah, keep an eye on the Lemmys and stuff like that, because that's I think all of the all the things that are happening that we don't really get to talk about on the show because we're off. We can actually still have that same conversation right there. And I don't know if you miss my voice, just tell me. I'll do a voice recording of my thoughts right then and there.
Yeah.
So I can enamor you.
Yeah, maybe we'll have a live stream or two, and so that's why I want to keep track of the social things as well, so that you can find out when we've gone live.
That's right.
Anyway, in the meantime, Leo, where can we find you?
You can find me over at leochavez@mastodon.social. You can also find me at leochavez.org over on Blue Sky. I'm not going to ask, but I will ask.
That's good, because that's coming up for the off season. But
that's
in the meantime, you can always catch me at KC2BEZ at mastodon.social and Monetary Abyss at bluesky.app. And so, at some point in the off season, I haven't really gotten any suggestions for domains, so I'm probably just going to pick one out of the thin air if no suggestions show up, and that'll be where you find me on Blue Sky.
The best damned .us or something.
I'm gonna come up with something. I'll keep poking around and all the places where domains are. And
I'm gonna send links, and I'm gonna do it in public so that we can have this discourse, because I want to know before we
then
pull the trigger
I'll just do the big giant spin the wheel thing, and then we'll come up with a domain, and that'll be where I'm at.
Yeah. And I know I want to dig more into the size of these apps and stuff like that. I just want to keep an eye on it. I want to know. I gotta know. There's more to this story. It can't just be bloat. It can't just be as easy as people are making it out to be. So that's something I'm going to be doing in the off season. So yeah, stick around to those places, and you'll hear about it as things unfold, I guess.
Yep. So stay tuned and stay in contact, and come back after our break for more Linux User Space. Bye, y'all.
Bye. OBS at 451, Telegram at 303, and that's 9.
Wow, that is the winner right there.
Where are we at?
5012.
Wow. Okay, so everybody should buy a Mac. That's the better system as it comes to bloat.
Yeah, pretty much. So 5012.
Wow. Okay, so 5 gigs. So 5 gigs, 6 gigs, 6 gigs, 7 gigs. Those are the numbers.
I think, though, looking at the Windows list here, Kdenlive, huge difference.
I bet. Okay, so I think Mac might be cheating a little. The more modern Macs, but I think they're all the other ones are end of life. So Mac is winning because of the architecture switch. I'm on an ARM Mac.
Also, it compiles at a smaller size
because the architecture's newer. It's not bloated.